Welcome back. And coming up next on Question Time, what's the level of compliance to the new Corporate Governance Code in Nigeria? The Executive Secretary of the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, Mr. Daniel Asapokhai, is our guest on the show. Join us again. Now, you also admitted to the fact that most companies in Nigeria do not have the structure to meet up with the Corporate Governance Code. And as a result of that, you said that the law will be taking effect in 2020.
No,
So
not that they don't have a structure. You've introduced a code. You must give people time to understand the requirements and implement it before you check how they're complying. You cannot introduce a code today and check tomorrow whether people have complied.
Would you say companies in Nigeria have the structure to comply with the corporate, or to meet up with the Corporate Governance Code?
Yes. And what do you need to meet up with the Corporate Governance Code? You need to be able to understand what the code says. I mean, it's a simple document. It has 28 principles of governance. We think every company can understand what those principles mean. And we have a broad program with different partners to drive home this message in terms of awareness, workshops, and all you have. So in terms of pushing out the message, we think we will do that very well. People understand the principles. Why are we asking you to do this? It's for your benefit. It's for your business to be more successful.
But from your role, it's expected that the FRC should play a major role, a major whistleblowing role so far, but that has not been seen so far. Is the FRC intimidated?
FRC is we do, in terms of the process of financial reporting, we set the standards, we monitor compliance with standards and enforce compliance with standards. Okay? So it's a standard setting body. There are various actors that are involved in the financial reporting chain that need to act at different points. Again, all complying with standards that have been established by the FRC.
What's the possibility of the FRC compromising in some of these reports?
In which reports?
The financial reporting standards of coming from the MDAs. Because you said you monitor, and I'm wondering that why do we still have reports of irregularities in the financial statement of many of these MDAs accounts?
If you're getting reports that are indicating that things are not the way they should do, that in itself is evidence of the system working. One, there's standards of what things should be like. And there's a process that detects when outputs or financial reports fall short of the standards.
No, but the FRC has not been doing much of that.
Of which one?
Of reporting irregularities in financial statements of MDAs.
So you need to understand, like I explained, MDAs prepare their financial reports, then it's audited, right? So the auditors have a role to play. FRC's input is setting the standard for you that is reporting and you that is performing the audit work, right? Not necessarily the FRC doing everything in the chain.
So how transparent is the process of the FRC in providing the financial reports?
Our processes are very transparent. We are a public institution. Our financial reports, all the rules and regulations we come up with, everything is available on our website. We're supervised by the Ministry of Trade and Industry. We have oversight both at the level of the House and at the Senate by their committees on trade and industry.
Let's come to Nigeria's macroeconomy now. We understand there is a report that says that 96% of companies in Nigeria are SMEs, but unfortunately, they don't contribute more than 1% of Nigeria's GDP. Have you done any survey on the structure of the SMEs in the country?
I mean, several studies have been done by government, and all clearly point to the fact that SMEs are the engine of growth for the economy, which is why the government has a lot of focus on promoting SMEs and making the business environment more conducive for them. So in terms of the things we are doing for SMEs, I mentioned earlier, is making it easier for SMEs to produce credible financial statements, which strengthens their capacity to access capital. So this whole push about IFRS for SMEs is about coming up with a simpler body of standards that SMEs can use.
How many SMEs can afford to get an accountant at least? How many? How feasible is this IFRS code for the SMEs in the country?
I mean, I think almost every SME can afford to get an accountant or have accounting services. And in terms of the simplification we're bringing to SMEs, for example, if I may indicate, when we talk about the IFRS standards, this is what it looks like, just in terms of share volume. This is the full IFRS. Now, in terms of what we are proposing or pushing for SMEs to use, this is IFRS for SMEs. So just in terms of physical volume of what the standard says, you can see the difference, right? So this is a simpler, body of standards. That's IFRS for SMEs. And SMEs, using the standards contained in there, producing financial statements, they will be as acceptable or the same standard as what your listed companies will produce using this.
So another naughty issue that has come to the fore is the Code of Corporate Governance that stipulates that the role of the chairman should be clearly separated from that of the CEO. Could you explain more on this?
I think in terms of corporate governance, that is a practice that is well established even in Nigeria.
Because
now.
You see so many people parading themselves as chairman, CEO.
That is correct. But in terms of, if you take our listed companies and, amongst our larger commercial enterprises, that is a practice that is well established, the separation of both roles. Now, so when you come to the SME space, for example, that is where you have this practice. Now, when you are preaching good corporate governance practices to a lot of the smaller organizations, there's the issue of capacity, even formation of a board. How do you get a board together? How do you bring in the people you need? So, which is why it is less a message of rigid rules and hammer and compliance at that level, but being able to demonstrate to a small business owner the benefits you will derive from not being chairman and CEO of a company you started with X amount of money and that you've labored for all of your life, right? There must be something in it for you. You must see a greater good from doing some of these things we are asking you to do. And I think as we clearly demonstrate the message to people that we're not saying do it simply because it's in a code and it's the law and we have the power to penalize you if you're not doing it. We are saying if you do it, you can see company A, B, C.
So are you saying that this is optional?
For public interest entities, for certain categories of companies, they will be required to adopt the code and report on their compliance. So it's not optional.
Going by international standard practice, how often can a board convene a meeting in a year?
I think if you talk about standard practice or good practices, or even if you go by the Code of Corporate Governance, I think there's a general recommendation. Boards should meet every quarter. So usually you have about 4 meetings.
So before we wind down now, in terms of promoting the ease of doing business in Nigeria,
yes,
what has been the role of the FRC, the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria?
Well, through the Ministry of Trade, we contribute broadly, but in terms of specific, going back to our mandate, which is financial reporting and good governance, the things we're doing around easing the financial reporting burden on SMEs, we think that will go a long way, not just in easing business, but in enabling our SMEs to get the capital they need to accelerate their growth.
In 30 seconds, what would you like the public to understand about the FRC?
It's about promoting trade and investment in Nigeria by ensuring that our businesses are producing high quality and credible financial information, and also that our businesses are properly governed and they are complying with standards of good corporate governance.
The Executive Secretary of the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, Mr. Daniel Asapokhai, thank you so much for making our time to be part of this episode of Question Time. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
I wish you the very best of luck.
My pleasure. Thanks.
And that will be all on this episode of Question Time from Channel TV's Global Headquarters. You can send us your thoughts on our social media platforms showing right on your screen. Join us next week on a fresh episode of the show. Many thanks for watching. I'm Benga Ashuru. Bye for now.